Hey artists! Today we're going to be doing a lesson on value. Value is one of our elements of art and it is the darkness or lightness of a color. So let's get started. All right, so this is called a value scale. Like I just told you guys, value is the lightness or darkness of a color. And adjust this real quickly. All right. And typically a value scale has 5 parts to it, or sections. It's got the very darkest value, and then they keep getting a little bit lighter until you get to white, which is the lightest value. Now this one I did in pencil. I just used my mechanical pencil, and I colored it I pressed down pretty hard. You know, I didn't want to break my lead, so I didn't press down too hard, but hard enough. And then I even went over it in a different direction. So I colored this way, and then I went this way, and then this way, just to get it as dark as it could possibly get. My next square is a little bit lighter, I just didn't apply as much pressure. This one, and then finally the last one is just white. On the second value scale, I'm going to use pattern instead of just a solid color. So I'm going to take my ruler. Actually, I'm not even going to use my ruler, but I'm going to make, you can use whatever pattern you want. The closer the lines are together in your pattern, the darker it is going to be. So I'm going to make, and I probably want to even put more lines to make it darker. And I'm going to number these. So this is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, with 5 being the darkest. All right, so for 4, I'm going to use fewer lines than I did on 5 to make it lighter. Okay, and then for 3, even fewer. And 2. And then 1 is white. So you can see how it is darkest in 5, and then it continues to get lighter until I get to white, which is 1. You can do this with all different types of art materials. Okay, I use pencil for these. In this next one, I'm going to use crayon. So I'm gonna, press down really hard for the darkest value. Now marker is kind of difficult to create different values unless you use it just to create patterns, because you can't really press down harder with a marker. All right, so there is my darkest value of my crayon. Okay, now I'm gonna lighten up a little bit, but it's still gonna be pretty dark for my 4. All right, and then we've got the 3, pressing a little bit less, applying less pressure. And 2, I'm doing it super light. Okay, and then 1 is white. So I've got 5, which is the darkest value, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, so we're gonna use these values to help us create dimension in our drawing. So when you add these different values, you're adding shadows, and by creating shadows on your drawings, it makes your drawings really come to life, and it makes them look 3D. Okay, so I want you to do 3 value charts one with just pencil, one using some kind of a pattern. I just used lines right here. And then one using crayon. And then we're gonna practice using our different values to shade in two shapes. So go ahead and do your value chart, and then we'll come back and do our shape. Okay, so we're going to do a sphere, which it's actually, oops, a circle, but I'm going to make it look like a sphere, like a three-dimensional circle or a ball, by adding shadows, and then also a cone. Okay, so for the sphere, and typically you wouldn't be dividing your shapes up with your pencil. You would just blend the different values in, but because we're just learning, we're gonna go ahead and do the pencil line. So the sphere, this circle is like the light that's shining on the sphere. So the light is coming from this direction. And then I'm making my lines go along with the shape of the sphere. And then my cone, I'm gonna divide that up as well. All right, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna pick a color. Let's see, how about purple? And I'm gonna start with my sphere. Now I've got, the dot right here is gonna be my white. So this will be the lightest, because it'll be white, and then, so this will be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So my darkest value is going to be over here because my light source is coming from this direction. So it's gonna be brightest up at the top, and then it'll start getting darker as I go down the sphere in this direction. So I'm gonna color this as, let me put my value chart right there so I can kind of use that as a reference. I'm gonna make this as dark as I can. Okay, and now I'm going to do a value of 4, so it's still dark, but not as dark as the very bottom. Maybe a little darker. All right, and now I'm gonna move on. This is 3, so it's lighter than my 4. Okay, and then this is my 2. Ooh, I'm gonna do that really light. All right, and this is the highlight, so it's going to stay white. And you can see how it kind of looks more like a form now, more like a 3D object than it did before. And then I'm also gonna put a little cast shadow. A cast shadow is when your object is casting a shadow on something else. So let's see if I drew a line. This is kind of like my tabletop. And then my cast shadow would be on the table. There we go. All right, looks a little bit more three-dimensional than it did before I added my shading, doesn't it? Okay, and now I'm gonna do the same thing over here with my cone. So this only has 4 sections, so there's not gonna be like a highlight or any spot that's like perfectly white. And you know what, I'm gonna do a different color for my cone. on. Let's see. Let's do this blue. Okay, so the light is coming from this way, so this will be the lightest value. So the darker value will be on this side. So I'm going to color this as dark as I can. Okay, then I'm going to switch it up to a 4. So it's still dark, but not as dark as the 5. I think I just love the way that it's just fun for me to do a lot of shading because it just makes your pictures look so much more realistic. Okay, and then 3. I'm gonna make this one a little bit darker because I made this section a little darker than I would have liked. And then this is just barely colored, super light. It's not a 1, it's not white, but it is a 2, so it's very light. There you go. And now I need to I'm gonna put a cast shadow on the right side because the light's coming from this way, so the shadow would be over here, and I'm gonna run out of space. But I can put a little bit of a shadow there. And there you go. Now I have added my shading using different values or different lightnesses and darknesses of a color, and my shapes seem to have really popped. So I've got my sphere and my cone. They're actually, you know, they're not really forms because they're flat, but because I added the shading and different values, it makes them look, it's creating the illusion of form. So I want you guys to do the value study. So you're gonna do 3 value studies, and I use my ruler to draw these out just to make them a little bit neater, and make 5 different values using a pencil, a pattern, a crayon, and then do your sphere and your cone using different values. And you can do that I did mine in crayon. If you want to do it in pencil, that's fine, or even a pattern might be kind of interesting too. It's up to you. Have fun with it, and I'm excited to see what you guys come up with. Bye.